afternoon everybody. I will set the context for my teaching presentation as follows. The mathematics lesson I'm discussing is set at the foundation level. The content and the learning outcomes are prepared according to the requirements of the Australian curriculum and the content descriptor, measurement and geometry, and it supports the relevant year level achievement standards. It is the first in a sequence of lessons as part of a unit on measurement which explores capacity, mass, length and height. The introductory lesson focuses on the following outcomes: to recognise and understand relevant relational language and terminology pertinent to the concept of measurement at a foundation level, to test the concept of estimation, to recognise the attributes of different objects and substances. Students have no formal prior knowledge of measurement and will expand upon their real-life experiences and social experiences which they have gained at home and in social environments. They will then begin to develop formal language associated with measurement attributes such as tall and taller, heavier and lighter, holds more, holds less. Students' heights have been previously recorded on a height chart around 3 months previous to this, and they will be referring back to those as they move through the rotations. The lesson is constructed in 3 phases: an introduction of 10 minutes, a body of 40 minutes, and a conclusion of 10 minutes. It follows the basic outline of the 5 E's framework, which is engage, explore, explain, elaborate and evaluate. During the introduction, the teacher sets the scene for the lesson, identifying and reading the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears as the content for our learning. Links are made to the 3 different sized bowls, chairs and beds. Students will then view a YouTube clip which demonstrates informal measurement in a fun and age-appropriate manner. Teaching strategies include reading, whole class discussion and demonstration. The teacher will explain the WALT and the WILF aspects of the lesson. For example, the WALT, what am I learning today? Students will identify the physical attributes of objects and substances to gain an understanding of length and height, mass and capacity or volume. Students are introduced to estimating and hefting as a precursor to direct comparison and the reasons why we use estimation. The WILF is why do we need to estimate? What would we need to measure in real life? They'll also be doing some estimating. For example, I think that Johnny is about this tall and perhaps I have to go and buy him a t-shirt, but I'm not really sure how big it's got to be, so I might have to guess. Also, if you're making a cake, you have to know exactly what measurements of the ingredients are that you need to put in, the size of the pan, that sort of thing. So also estimating will come in over there. They also need to know sort of the consequences if they measure the wrong amounts and what could happen if they did that. Students will also be introduced to the language of measurement. For example, length, longer, shorter, for height, taller or shorter, for mass, heavier or lighter, and for capacity, holds more, holds less. The terminology will be used at all times during the stations in the lesson. As they move around the rotations, they'll be using this language all the time. The teachers will be using it and the students will be using it back to the teachers as well to consolidate the language. In the body of the lesson, the teacher will explain that the students are to work in groups of 6 students each and that they will be progressing through a rotation of 4 different experience stations. Each station will have an activity which supports the concepts of measurement. For example, for the mass, we're going to have a couple of scales with different little plastic bears in there to support our theme, and different items that they can be measuring and comparing measurement. There's also a water tray where there's going to be some containers, different size containers and different shape containers, which I will demonstrate in a minute. There will be some dry beans which they can use as well instead of the water to accommodate the number of children. In the Play-Doh station, they're going to be making Play-Doh snakes or Play-Doh objects where they can be making shorter and longer items to show the difference. And there's also another station where they're going to be doing heights, so the children can mark off their height and look at each other's heights, compare the heights, and also we will have our height chart that we did a couple of months ago, so we'll be able to compare our heights from the time back to now. The teacher will demonstrate the rules of using the resources at each station. So before the children start, they're going to be instructed on what they should be doing with the equipment, what not to be doing, and general behaviour at each station, turn taking, sharing, helping, assisting others where necessary as well. They need to be able to use the language of measurement as well, so that will also be demonstrated to them at all times. The teacher and the teacher aide will be demonstrating to the students as they are moving through the rotations, the 10-minute rotations. We will start off with a whistle, and it will be a timed rotation which the teacher will keep track of. So the students will go to each station for 10 minutes each, that each child gets a chance to move around each rotation. The teacher will be with one group, the teacher aide another group. There will be a parent helper as well, which will be with the third group. And with the fourth group, between the teacher and the teacher aide, they'll be walking around assisting the students with their language and assisting them to develop the concepts and to carry out the activities as well. One example I'm going to show you now is the water tray. And over here I have a larger tray with a smaller water tray in it filled with water. I have some different shaped containers, a small container, one of these, a larger one, another cup and a small jug. Now some of these are different shapes as well, so this one over here and this one over here both carry 1 cup's capacity, but they are different shapes, different heights, which the children will have to explore and try and understand why they take the same measurements but they are different shapes. So the kinds of questions that I could be asking the students are these, like, how can I find a container that might hold more than this one, or a container that might hold more than this one, alright? Also, I wonder how many of these it would take to fill this one up over here. It might take a few, and how are we going to go about doing that? What are we going to do? Are we going to use this one or this one? We also could see which cup would be better to fill up this one over here. So if I wanted to fill this one up, would I perhaps use this one? Or would I maybe use this one over here, which would be the better one to use? Or if I wanted to fill this one up over here, would I be using this one over here? And if so, why? And if not, why not? Okay, so the students will be doing this. There's water in here, so they can be experimenting and playing in here. The teaching strategies in that part of the lesson include direct instruction, demonstration, discussion with the whole class and with small groups, use of resources and small group as well, obviously because there's small groups moving around. The assessment that is being used for this task is because measurement is a very practical topic and the resources have to be tactile resources, there's not going to be any formal written formative assessment. So the teacher's going to be going around using questioning, writing down some anecdotal notes, using observation and making notes of what might be pertinent or what might be out of character or out of the ordinary. So those sort of things will be used as formative assessment. They can probably also be used as a kind of diagnostic assessment to see where some of the children are at, because they haven't had much formal experience with measurement except what they've learnt at home and what they've been practicing with or just playing with. It could be used as a diagnostic tool as well, which will all inform subsequent lessons and then inform the summative assessment at the end. The formative assessment is carried out with reference to the proficiency strands in the Australian curriculum for maths, and those are understanding, fluency, problem solving and reasoning. In the conclusion of the lesson, this part of the lesson links to the real life implications of what we've been learning. So the children will be come together again, they'll be sitting on the carpet as a group, as a whole group, and we will discuss what we have done in the lesson, discuss what we've learnt, what they have found, what they have explored, any complications they might have, any questions they might have, things they're not sure of. We will be discussing all that sort of thing on the carpet as well, and also thinking about what real life concepts, what real life contexts we could use to adapt our learning to for the children as well. We're going to be making some links to the following lessons because, as I said, it's an introductory lesson, a very short introductory lesson to the concept of different kinds of measurement. So it's just like almost a bridging to the next lessons that we are going to do. which will be exploring direct comparison of objects, and we'll also be exploring indirect comparison down the track. So there's a series of lessons and they're all in sequence. So it sets a foundation for the subsequent lessons, and we're going to be building upon the language that we've been learning and the concepts that we've been learning to extend to real life situations and contexts. The children will also be having a word wall, which we will, all the language that we've learned and the words that we've learned, we'll be thinking about and making some words up and putting it up on the wall so that they have a constant reference to go to. They can learn the sounds, the spelling, and it also then links to other literacy parts of the curriculum as well that they can link it all to in the end.